Time is not just a ticking clock on the wall. Time is life itself. The way you experience time is the way you experience your life. Every moment that passes is not just a minute lost, it's a slice of your existence that will never return. People often say they don't have time, but that's not true. They have time, they simply don't realize what time really is. It's not a commodity you can store, trade, or save. You cannot accumulate time for tomorrow. You cannot rewind time for yesterday. You can only live it now. Look at the nature of your breath. It happens in this moment. You are not breathing yesterday's air or tomorrow's promise. You are breathing this moment. So if this breath is life, and breath only happens now, then what is time? Time is the unfolding of your life, breath by breath, moment by moment. To waste time is not a small mistake. It's to waste life, consciously or unconsciously. But because we don't see time physically vanishing, we think we are doing just fine. If every wasted minute took a piece of our body with it, we would become alert very quickly. But it doesn't work that way. The loss is invisible, yet the impact is very real. People want to find meaning, fulfillment, and purpose, but they are waiting for the right time to begin. The right time is a myth. There is no later. There is no someday. There is only now. The more you postpone life, the more you are handing it over to non-existence. Life doesn't wait for anyone. Whether you are joyful or miserable, focused or confused, life is passing. It doesn't pause because you are not ready. Time doesn't adjust for your mood, your circumstances, or your excuses. It flows in perfect equanimity. The question is, are you flowing with it or are you dragging your feet? What you call a day is actually just a cycle of the planet. What you call a year is another cycle. But you, as a being, are not a machine built for repetition. You are here to blossom, to evolve, to rise in awareness. And that can only happen when you become conscious of how you use your time. If you're constantly complaining, reacting, hesitating, procrastinating, you're not just wasting time, you're decaying your own potential. Every second you spend unconsciously is a missed opportunity to become more than what you were a moment ago. You may have heard people say time is money. That's a poor comparison. Money lost can be earned again. Time lost is gone forever. Even as you read these words, you are spending the currency of your life. If you are reading with awareness, you're investing it. If you are reading with distraction, you're losing it. This is the difference. Life is not about how much you do. It's about how deeply you engage with what you do. That quality comes when you see time not as a background element, but as your very core. There are people who seem to achieve incredible things in very short periods. And then there are those who seem to do very little, even with decades at their disposal. The difference is not luck. It's not talent. It's awareness of time. When you realize that you are a finite container for infinite possibility and that this possibility is bleeding away every moment, you begin to act differently. You stop engaging in things that don't nourish your growth. To stop chasing validation, approval, or distractions. You start becoming precise, not because someone told you to be efficient, but because you cannot afford to be careless with your life. If someone gave you a fixed amount of breaths, say 10,000 breaths, and told you this is all you get, would you spend your breaths on gossip, scrolling endlessly, or worrying about what others think? No, you would become sharp, you would choose carefully, you would breathe with awareness. This is not a hypothetical. You do have a limited number of breaths, you just don't know the number. That makes it even more urgent to live consciously. Every moment has the power to transform you. Every moment is a door to something greater. But doors are only useful if you walk through them. Time offers these doors constantly. People often believe that successful individuals have more time than others, or that they've discovered some secret method to extend their days. But the truth is, everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. No more, no less. The mystics, the scientists, the artists, the business leaders, they are all functioning within the same boundary of time. The difference is not in the hours, but in how those hours are handled. But success in any form is not about managing time. It is about managing oneself. When you are disorganized within, when your thoughts are scattered, when your emotions run wild, you can sit with a task for hours and still feel like nothing meaningful happened. On the other hand, someone who is internally aligned, clear, stable, and focused can complete the same task with depth and quality in a fraction of the time. So, it's not the time that made the difference. It's the person. It's how they have cultivated their inner space, how they've built themselves from within. Managing yourself means first becoming aware of how your mind functions. Are you in charge of your thoughts, or are they dragging you around like wild horses? Are your emotions tools that enrich your experience, or are they unpredictable waves that crash into everything you do? These internal aspects, when left unmanaged, drain more time than any external factor ever could. You don't need more hours. You need less internal friction. When there is clarity, there is flow. When there is flow, time becomes an ally, not an enemy. People think being busy means being productive, but busyness without inner alignment is just a noisy distraction. You can be busy all day and still feel hollow by the evening, because being busy is not the same as being purposeful. A person who has mastered themselves doesn't need to be busy. They can move with a sense of calm precision, getting more done with less noise, because their energy is not being scattered across unnecessary thoughts and reaction. When you manage yourself, you begin to operate from a deeper place of presence. You're no longer pulled by every little urge or triggered by every situation. You create space between stimulus and response. That space is where choice happens, and choice is where power lies. Most people react to life. They run from one thing to the next, always chasing, always fixing, always firefighting. But someone who has cultivated inner management responds rather than react. That single shift can transform the way time works for you. Another part of managing yourself is knowing what deserves your attention and what does not. Not everything requires your response. Not everything deserves your energy. Without self-management, people feel guilty saying no. They feel obligated to attend to everything and everyone. But when you manage yourself well, you understand that your attention is sacred. Where you place it determines the quality of your life. So you guard it not with resistance, but with clarity. Discipline is often misunderstood. People think it is about forcing oneself into routines or following rigid structures. But true discipline is a natural outcome of inner alignment. When you are clear about what you want and your thoughts, emotions, and actions support that direction, discipline is not a burden. It becomes effortless. You are not fighting against yourself. You are moving as one integrated being. In that state, procrastination disappears, confusion dissolves, and focus becomes natural. Managing yourself also means understanding your energy levels, your natural rhythms, and your tendencies. Some people are more creative in the morning, others at night. Some need solitude to think clearly, others need movement or music. There is no single formula. But unless you observe yourself closely, you will always be trying to copy someone else's path. And that really works. Self-management begins with self-observation. You learn how you function, not as an idea, but through direct awareness. Then you can design your day, your habits, your engagements around that understanding. Success is not achieved by those who try to control everything outside. It is achieved by those who master the inside. Because once you manage yourself, the world no longer dictates your pace. You are not reacting to life, you are creating it. Time doesn't feel like an enemy or a pressure. It becomes a platform on which your inner clarity expresses itself. Every moment then becomes an opportunity. Awareness is not something mystical or out of reach. It is the most practical tool for transforming the way you live and work. When you are aware, you begin to see things as they are, not as you wish them to be or fear them to be. This simple shift changes everything. In the presence of awareness, confusion drops, clarity emerges, and with clarity there is no need for unnecessary effort. You simply know what to do, when to do it, and how much of yourself to give in each moment. This is what makes you efficient, not the speed at which you move, but the precision with which you act. Many people think that to become efficient they must move faster, multitask, or stretch themselves thinner, but that only leads to burnout. Speed without clarity is chaos. True efficiency does not come from cramming your schedule with more tasks. It comes from being fully present in whatever you are doing, so that your energy is not divided, your attention is not scattered, and your action is not diluted. When you do something with full awareness, it doesn't just get done, it gets done well, with less resistance and less repetition. Clarity does not arrive through thinking harder. It comes from stillness, from watching, from observing your own patterns without judgment. When you are aware, you can see how much of your time is consumed not by work but by indecision, mental noise, emotional swings, and internal conflict. Just sitting with a task while your mind is elsewhere creates friction. That friction is invisible but very costly. It wears you out. It makes even small tasks feel heavy. But when you bring your full attention to what's in front of you, you cut through the noise. You act from a centered place and things move smoothly. When awareness grows, your relationship with time changes. You begin to see how every action you take has a ripple effect. A small conscious act now can save hours later. A clear decision made now prevents confusion from multiplying down the line. But when you act unconsciously, you are always correcting, fixing, or redoing things. So it's not about doing more in less time. It's about doing the right thing in the right way the first time. That comes from clarity, and clarity is born from awareness. You also become more efficient in your communication. Most misunderstandings, delays, and conflicts arise because people are not listening, not observing, not really present. They are hearing with their ears, but not with their full being. When you are aware, your words become sharper, fewer, and more meaningful. You say what is needed and no more. This saves not just time, but energy. Conversations become productive. Relationships become less dramatic. Workflows become smoother. Distraction is a natural enemy of clarity, and the modern world is full of it. Notifications, messages, entertainment, opinions. It's a flood that never ends. But awareness is your anchor. It allows you to stand still in the storm to see what actually matters. When you know what matters, your decisions align with your goals. You are not pulled into every passing trend or emotional impulse. You move with intention. Many people ask how to find purpose or direction. They think it's something they must chase. But purpose is not found through running faster. It is revealed through seeing clearer. When you become deeply aware of yourself, your strengths, your distractions, your compulsions, you can align your actions with what truly matters to you. That alignment creates purpose. It creates direction, and it naturally makes you more efficient because you are no longer wasting effort on things that don't serve your deeper goals. Efficiency is not a formula or a system you can impose from the outside. It is an outcome of inner clarity. And clarity is not something to be borrowed from a book or a guru. It must be cultivated within. You have to watch how you function, how you get caught, where your energy leaks. And slowly, with patience and attention, you begin to clean the inner lens through which you see the world. That lens is your awareness. When it becomes clear, your outer life becomes streamlined. Even in the simplest acts, drinking a cup of tea, writing an email, walking down a corridor, there is room for awareness. And that awareness doesn't slow you down. It brings you into the present where your full intelligence can function. Most of the time, people are only half present. They are physically in one place and mentally in another. This division is the root of inefficiency. But when awareness joins body and mind in the same space, you become whole. And when you are whole, distraction is not just a minor inconvenience. It is a silent killer of your potential. Every time you get distracted, a small piece of your attention is pulled away from what truly matters. And when your attention is fragmented, your energy follows. Over time, these small diversions accumulate into a life lived off course. It is not the dramatic failures that derail most people. It is the subtle, repeated act of giving their time and focus to things that have no real value. Every distraction, whether it's a message on your phone, a wandering thought, or a meaningless conversation, is not just a moment lost. It is a fragment of your life that you will never get back. People underestimate the cost of distractions because they think in minutes. But life is not measured in minutes. It is measured in attention. What you give your attention to, you give your life to. This is not philosophy, it is a fact. When you are focused, even for a short time, you can accomplish more than what many do in an entire day of divided attention. But when you are distracted, even if you sit for hours, nothing moves deeply. You skim the surface, never reaching the depths where real progress happens. Your mind is not designed to jump endlessly from one thing to another. Every time it switches tasks, it loses momentum. There is a mental cost called switching cost. Each time you move your focus from one activity to another, your brain takes time to adjust. And in that process, there is not just a loss of time, but a loss of depth. When you constantly live in distraction, you become superficial, not by choice, but by design. You lose the ability to engage fully, to penetrate a problem, to sit with discomfort, to explore something thoroughly. You are training yourself to be restless. When you let distractions dominate your day, you start to live reactively. You are not deciding where your time and energy go. The world is deciding it for you. Notifications, opinions, news, trends, they all hijack your attention, one ping at a time. And in doing so, they hijack your life. Slowly you forget what truly matters to you. Your goals become blurry. Your values become secondary. You live in a fog of endless stimulation but very little satisfaction. Because deep inside you know you are capable of more, but you are caught in a loop of reacting to things that don't deserve your attention in the first place. Focus is not about gritting your teeth and forcing your way through tasks. It is about protecting your attention like something sacred, because it is. Your attention is the gateway through which your consciousness moves into the world. If that gateway is always open to noise, you cannot go inward. You cannot go deep. And without depth, there is no mastery, no creativity, no transformation. Whether you're building a business, writing a book, or simply trying to live a conscious life, the quality of your attention determines the quality of everything you touch. There is a difference between rest and distraction. Rest rejuvenates you. Distraction drains you. When you rest consciously through silence, nature, or stillness, you are recovering your energy. But when you escape into distractions to avoid discomfort, you are not resting. You are numbing. And whatever you numb does not disappear. It waits. It accumulates. So you may feel busy, but you're not moving. You are stuck in cycles of avoidance. And these cycles are what slowly erode your confidence, your clarity, your sense of purpose. Awareness is the antidote. When you start noticing your distractions, not to judge them, but simply to see them, you begin to reclaim your power. You start to notice how quickly your mind wants to run away from anything that requires effort or patience. You see how easily you reach for stimulation when silence enters the room. And in that noticing, you begin to interrupt the pattern. You don't have to fight distractions. You just have to stop feeding them. When you stop giving them your energy, they lose their grip. People who achieve great things are not immune to distraction. They simply choose differently. They have seen the cost of a distracted mind and decided that their vision is too important to be diluted. They are not obsessed with being busy. They are devoted to being clear. This clarity creates space for deep work, for focused effort, for progress that is not loud but real. And over time, that kind of focus builds something extraordinary. Not because they had more time, but because their intensity is often misunderstood. People associate it with stress, pressure, or being constantly on edge. But true intensity is something entirely different. It is not about being tense or overwhelmed. It is about being fully involved in what you do, to the point where there is no part of you held back. It is not about doing things aggressively. It is about doing things wholeheartedly. When you bring intensity to life, every moment becomes alive, every action becomes meaningful, and every experience becomes deep. This kind of intensity doesn't drain you, it energizes you. Stress comes from resistance. It comes from wishing things were different, from trying to be somewhere else while your body is here. But intensity comes from acceptance. It comes from pouring yourself into the present moment without fighting it. There is no residue when you live like this. No mental leftovers from yesterday. No dragging your feet into tomorrow. You do something fully and then you move on, light and free. This is the beauty of intensity without residue. Most people are only partially engaged in what they do. A part of them is thinking about the past, another part is worrying about the future, some part is wondering what others think, and only a small fraction of them is actually present. That divided attention becomes the source of fatigue. It's not the work that tires them, it's the constant inner conflict. When your body is doing one thing and your mind another, you are pulling yourself in different direction. But when all of you is aligned in one direction, you move with power and grace. That is intensity. Intensity is not about being loud or dramatic. You can sit silently in a room and still be intense. It is a state where your focus is razor sharp, your involvement is total, and your presence is undeniable. It is when your life is not fragmented into compartments but becomes one integrated expression. Whether you're cooking a meal, writing a letter, solving a problem, or simply sitting still, intensity means you're fully there. Not multitasking, not half-hearted, just there, as if that moment is the only thing that exists. This kind of presence is rare in the modern world. We are trained to chase 10 things at once, to keep our options open, to avoid diving too deep. But depth comes only with intensity. Mastery comes only with involvement. Whether you are learning a skill or building a relationship, if you are not all in, you are not going anywhere meaningful. Half measures lead to shallow results. But when you give yourself fully, something shifts. You start to experience life not as a series of tasks, but as a living process, rich with texture and meaning. People fear intensity because they think it will consume them. But it is not the intensity that consumes you, it is the resistance to it. When you fully engage, you actually become lighter. You are no longer carrying unfinished thoughts, incomplete actions, or emotional baggage. You have no backlog in your mind. You are not tired because you have done too much, but because you have done everything halfway. The burden of incompletion is heavier than any workload. Intensity also brings clarity. When you immerse yourself in something, distractions fall away, doubt quiets down. The mind becomes focused, not because you forced it, but because you offered it a purpose worth serving. Intensity gives your energy a direction. Without it, you drift. With it, you cut through the noise and reach the heart of things quickly. This doesn't mean rushing. It means moving with precision and purpose. Even slow actions can be intense if they are done with complete attention. When you live intensely, your very presence becomes impactful. People can feel it. It's not about charisma or image. It's a certain still fire in your being. You don't need to impress. You don't need to explain. There's a quiet power in someone who is fully there. Whether you are in a conversation or working on a project, your intensity becomes contagious. It raises the quality of everything around you. You start to set the tone rather than reacting to others. This intensity is not something you manufacture. It is your natural state when you stop scattering yourself. It is what happens when your thoughts, emotions, and actions are in harmony. You don't need to push. You need to align. And once you are aligned, the force with which you move is effortless yet profound. You begin to see that intensity is not a burden, but a way of honoring life. There is a common idea that rest is something you earn after exhaustion, something you get to enjoy only when your energy has been depleted. But this understanding of rest is deeply flawed. True rest is not a luxury, nor is it something that comes only at the end of effort. It is something you carry within you, moment to moment. When you live in alignment, when your actions are not in conflict with your thoughts and emotions, there is rest even in movement. You can be active, fully engaged, and yet feel a deep sense of ease inside. This inner ease is not the absence of activity. It is the absence of resistance. Most people are chasing rest the wrong way. They run through their days, burning themselves out, and then try to find rest by collapsing into a weekend or a vacation. But those breaks rarely bring real peace. They may offer temporary relief, but the inner noise continues. The mind is still spinning, the emotions still turbulent. So even in rest, there is unrest. This is because true rest does not come from stopping activity. It comes from dropping inner friction. When what you do flows naturally from who you are, then rest becomes a continuous background to all you're doing. Alignment is the key. When your body, mind, and emotions are pulling in different directions, even simple things feel heavy. But when they are in sync, you can go through the most intense days without feeling drained. You are not being pulled in pieces. You are moving as one complete being. In such a state, rest is not something you seek. It is something that surrounds you, like an atmosphere. You breathe it, even while you act. You carry it even in chaos. This is not about reducing effort, it is about reducing conflict. When you act with clarity, there is no debate inside. There is no tug of war between should I or shouldn't I. There is no constant questioning, doubting, second-guessing. That internal chatter is what exhausts you. Not the work, not the effort. It's the internal push and pull that wears you down. When that stops, what you once called restlessness disappears. And what you once called fatigue begins to feel unnecessary. Being restful does not mean being passive. It means being rooted. When a tree is rooted deeply into the earth, it can stand strong through any storm. Restfulness is like that. It grounds you. It doesn't stop the winds of life, but it gives you the strength to move with them without breaking. In this state, you are no longer reacting to every small thing. You are responding with awareness. There is space in you, and in that space, there is peace. One of the greatest powers of restfulness is that it allows you to recover faster, think clearer, and act sharper. It enhances your perception. When you are tired, everything feels harder than it is. Small problems feel big. Delays feel like failures. But when you are rested within, you have a certain freshness in your perception. You can see things as they are. You don't get carried away by emotions or thoughts. You become stable. And this stability gives you resilience. You bounce back faster. You handle setbacks without losing your center. Restfulness also opens the door to deeper intelligence. When your mind is crowded, when your emotions are in turmoil, your decisions are reactive. But in rest, there is room for insight. There is space for something new to emerge. Many breakthroughs in life don't come from effort, but from stillness. They come when you stop trying to force your way through and allow clarity to arise on its own. That clarity can't be commanded. It needs a certain quietness, a certain balance. Restfulness is the womb from which that clarity is born. Even creativity flourishes in rest. You can't force inspiration. You can only create the right conditions for it to arrive. And one of those conditions is inner ease. When you are relaxed but alert, open but centered, ideas flow, solutions come, creativity blossoms. This is why some of the most brilliant ideas come when people are walking, daydreaming, or simply sitting quietly. It's not the absence of thinking that creates genius. Is the presence of a still, alert mind that is not caught in noise. To live a life of impact, you don't need more stress, you need more stillness. Not the stillness of inaction, but the stillness of alignment. When your inner system is harmonious, rest becomes natural. You don't have to run toward it or wait for it. It moves with you, it becomes your companion, and when rest walks with you, no matter how far you go, no matter how much you carry, you do not feel burdened.